What's up, everybody? Big Herc 916 getting down with Fresh Out. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share the channel, man. Let's blow this thing up. I'm here with my friend Chico. We're kicking some game around, man, and sharing conversation. And one of the things, I want to talk to him about because he has a very broad background in entertainment industry and just a world of knowledge was the Deion Sanders situation and, him leaving Jackson State and going to, Colorado and that whole HBCU thing. Chico, what is your whole take on that, man? And, how this man has, advanced himself, but he, elevated that college, that school, and now he's looking to try to further his career. I mean, how do you look at that whole situation?
It's funny because, you've mentored people. You know how it is when you're talking to people and you're talking to people about kind of doing the thing that's good for them in order to take their life where they want to go. This is kind of how I look at Deion's scenario. I think it's difficult for some of us, right? Because, we saw Deion in his heyday of playing and, to us, we love Deion Sanders. And I think I normally don't get too caught up in college sports and their politics, but I do kind of feel like he's getting a little bit of the short end of the stick, I think the black community is being a little hard on him in reference to his decision to move on. Because it's not like he came there and didn't do anything. This guy came and brought some spotlight to HBCUs. He really got people excited about the idea of paying those schools more attention. He improved elements of their school and their program. And, like any other business or, I'm in real estate now primarily. And the reality of it is that if you're a real estate professional people are going to recruit you. They're going to try to poach you from whoever you're working with, right? And I think he's making the right decision. I think to open up a vacancy there at Jackson, rather than people being mad at him for his decision to leave. I was just more curious to know, why aren't there a line of people who have come out of the NFL recently who are ready to step in and take the job, meaning it should really be looked at more as like an opportunity to continue to grow without your budget line increasing, because to keep someone longer and longer, you're going to have to pay them more. But I think he's, I'm excited for him. I think it's a good thing that he's going to go do at Colorado. They need some help turning around. They need some help with the culture there. And I just feel like Deion is unfortunately being treated in a way that's going to make a lot of other people of his stature think twice before they go and lend their time and expertise to organizations that they may not, under other circumstances, have to be bothered with.
Do you think that there's a lack of, when it comes to certain, blacks contributing to these HBCUs to create endowments so that they have the finances? Because apparently Deion said when he came there, the locker room was in disarray, the football field was in shitty condition. I mean, he used part of his money to, even when they didn't have water, to bust in water, and the ice machine didn't work. I mean, there's a lot of different things, but everybody showed up to the homecoming, but who's showing up to really elevate these schools financially so that they can compete, compared to, Colorado. It's got a $20 billion they got an endowment.
It's fascinating how much money some of the schools have, and when you see some of their facilities, I mean, it's amazing to see how nice some of these college facilities are. But to your point, that's partially tuition, that's endowments, that's commitments from alumni. You go to a lot of schools and you see that the people that have come out of that school that have gone on to be very successful give a significant amount of that money back to the school to make sure those facilities are as nice as they are and they can continue to do the work that they do. I think we've got two issues, right? Obviously, HBCUs are underfunded, right? And they're underfunded from a federal perspective, but more importantly, they're underfunded from a public perspective. I do feel like their big issue is when you don't have the money to maybe keep the facilities in pristine condition, or to attract and keep people in a football program where you can really spend the money to make sure that they're getting the exposure that they want. It's difficult, but I do put a little bit of that on the alumni. I think when you go to when you graduate from a school, whoever's your alma mater, you really got to make it a point in your career as you grow to make sure that colleagues, friends, other professionals in your field are well aware of what you take seriously. For some people, that's a charity. For other people, that's the school they went to. They attribute a lot of their success there, and therefore a lot of the time and effort that you're giving back really needs to be back at that school. Because, growing up in Atlanta, we had quite a few HBCUs, right? And they haven't been free of controversy over the years, right? But what trips me out is I would imagine that if I had gone to a college like that and I had $100 million, maybe before I gave you a donation, I might attach that to a business manager that has to be there, or a bookkeeper that has to make sure. You know what I mean? It's almost like before I go out and build some multi-million-dollar parking deck for Spelman, or not just using them as an example, but like for any HBCU, maybe the key is just to make sure that their funding is being handled right, that be a condition of that money. But I think this is the problem, is that over the years we haven't been free of these issues. Most of the time it's only really affected students. Now it affected somebody who has the ability to walk away. And that person, for a myriad of reasons, whatever that may be, I've heard it's misappropriation of funds, the field scenario, cutting the grass, having your items stolen, I mean, there's things that happen, but I do think that for somebody like Deion, there needs to be a little more respect paid for that type of person who's come and taken the time to be there. I don't think it's just funny to me that everybody's acting like the responsibility falls solely on Deion. It's like this guy's paying a debt he technically doesn't know. Yeah. He's really paying some dues on a debt that he really doesn't know. And so it's just kind of funny that he would come there, do a phenomenal job, get those guys kind of where they need to be, give them a lot of love and support, and take them to 2 championships. And we're acting like, I'm gonna tell you.
Well, if he hadn't have won, they'd have been calling him a bum. They would have been the worst thing ever.
Hey, it was funny. I was sitting there. I was talking about Buddy the other day, and I said, what you're seeing to me is daddy issues in grown men. Like you're seeing a bunch of grown adults go on these things and give on these podcasts or on the radio or on the news and really give Deion a hard time. I'm like, Deion's not your dad, dude. Deion.
Yeah, exactly.
Deion did what he was supposed to do. He did his job.
Yeah.
He went above and beyond, and all good things come to an end. And I don't think he should be faulted for that. I personally don't. Now I know people are going to be passionate about that topic, but I don't think he should be faulted.
It's like, he said at what point, how long am I obligated to stay to make you happy?
Yeah.
And then on top of it, I showed you what I could do now. It's up to you now to continue to carry on that flame.
Certainly. And
what you guys are capable of. So if you know that, then now it's like, okay, maybe you guys can negotiate your next TV deal or, endorsement deal or whatever the case may be. Because, at the end of the day, college football is a business, and you got to look at, he's got to feed his family, man. You can't expect a man to starve for your sake.
No. And you bring up the best point. Can you imagine if that man came there and wasn't winning? If he was, man.
Yeah, it would be a totally different conversation.
Man, it'd be memes online. They'd be making jokes about this dude,
Yeah.
But I mean, I think he did what he was supposed to do. He did it in such extraordinary fashion that I think people, particularly in the black community, we really need to be looking at Deion as that's the way you should go into something. When you commit, if you commit to a job, if you commit to a charity, if you commit to a kid, go into it with everything. And of course, everybody will benefit from the fruits of your labor. But, I think that he really put his best foot forward and, really did a phenomenal job to the point where you got to wonder how many, if I'm running that school or running that sports program, how long can we win before? Now, remember, I'm not in the top 5 conversation. But now that I've got this type of person turning my team around, I know now I have to fight off all of these big schools with tons of money. How would I keep that relationship there?
That's right.
Could I do it by having the most money? Probably not. But could I do it through making sure that this person is well aware that A, we're grateful, and we're doing everything we can in our power to make sure that the ship is running smooth. Sometimes that's all you can give people. And then if he leaves anyway, there's nothing you can do.
Well, that's a great point, because looking at that situation, it wasn't the money, because he was the lowest paid. He wasn't making like, I don't know, maybe not, but he wasn't. He's spending a lot of money after it all said and done. He wasn't a high pay, but he took talent that wasn't overlooked by major universities and turned it into something. Yeah. So maybe that's a calling for some of these other men who are play football at a level to come in and step their game up now and do what he did if they want to really do that. Because for you to talk about this man, but you're sitting at home on your couch with your remote control drinking your Budweiser, you can't judge this man.
Well, that's
who spent his weekends and away from family and doing all this stuff, man.
Well, that's a good point. And it's funny because, I've had a few friends that have played in the NFL. I haven't spoken with them on this particular topic. But I would be irritated if I was talking to somebody who had been in the league or had that level of expertise, who would be attractive to a school like that, who would also sit there and speak negatively about what Deion has done. Because I do feel like there's a lot of people, and particularly a lot of black men in the league, but there's even more black men that have gone through the league that are out of the league now. And I'm certain that there's people that could lend their expertise as a strength coach, an offensive coordinator, whatever any of these schools need. I think that should be a bit of a priority. With that being said, I think we also have this other situation where most of these guys did not go to one of those schools, right? They didn't go to an HBCU. They didn't go to one of those schools, so they are not really maybe in that position where they feel like, of all things, to do at this stage.
Go to Florida State?
Yeah. So to that point, though, I mean, I think what he did was admirable, but I think the pool of people is much smaller than we think. They don't even look at those universities. Yeah, because we're thinking like, man, there's a lot of black people in the NFL. There's plenty of black, but a lot of these guys went to other schools. You know what I mean? So if they went to other schools and maybe they don't have that connection, or we don't know how they grew up, maybe culturally or where they grew up. But I think in general, as black people, we should be being more supportive of Deion to go on and continue to be successful as Deion is. I mean, it's Deion Sanders. I'm trying to figure out how long people thought Deion would stay anywhere if Deion isn't happy. He's never been the type of dude that's just gonna let you just do whatever you
run over him.
So I think that's the interesting thing about getting somebody like that, and going forward, it's like.
But nobody said nothing until he said he wanted to leave.
Yeah.
You guys were, sitting. It wasn't like anybody was stepping up and saying, "Hey, Deion, we're going to give you this money."
So that's interesting. Yeah, I knew, and it's funny because I knew Deion was there. I remember when he went. I'd been following them, just because I've really been following Deion, and I've really been fascinated at how much he's accomplished. But the fanfare just isn't there, and I think he really probably tried to turn that around, the visibility of these schools on television and in the media. But for whatever reason, that didn't necessarily come to fruition. So I just feel like what we're seeing is kind of twofold. We're seeing a guy with a family make a decision for himself, an independent guy with a family, as he's always done. He's always gone and done whatever he's wanted to do. And he's always done very well when he's gotten where he's landed. We're also seeing a very big school who also, I think this is the interesting thing about black celebrity. I feel like many times we feel like black celebrities are exclusive to us. But I watched an interview with this young guy, Jeremy. I guess he went to the school and was an athlete himself and was instrumental in letting the sports department know that he felt like Deion Sanders was their best pick and he didn't think they could get him. What I thought was interesting, this white kid says, when I was a kid, true story, I wanted to change my name to Deion. That's why I ended up playing 2 professional sports. So we think oftentimes we're black. I'm black, you black. Deion, that's us.
Yeah.
But Deion is Deion.
Yeah.
Deion is an athlete, a world-class athlete that's loved by everyone. So the competition for a top-notch athlete to come do anything for us is not just amongst the black people who want
and
him.
you know what? Another thing too is his sons. He was a father being there for his kids to make sure that, you know what I mean? Dude, he's walking them like almost like LeVar, like what is the ball?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? But he went there to make sure his kids were on top, quarterback, safety. I mean, dude, how many dads are doing? I mean,
and I'll tell you too.
That's big.
That's actually a good point. If you forget kind of the historic issues and the historic relationship with HBCUs and the rest of education, if you put that aside and you really look at Deion squarely as a dad, I think you're 100% right. I think the untold story here is I've got athletic sons. We're here doing something great, but I feel like we've kind of peaked, right? I mean, we can go 3 times. If I go, it's like selling records. If I go a 3rd time and I don't go undefeated or I don't get the championship, did I fall off? No, I just didn't have a good year. Mm-hmm. But the world today is going to say, oh, is Deion losing steam? Mm-hmm. Da-da-da-da. While I'm at my height, you know, it's like Seinfeld quitting his show when the show was booming. You know what I mean? When I'm at my height, now is my opportunity to walk. Because at my height is when, in real estate, you always remind people, you're going to make the deal, the money in the deal is made on the front. Like, on the purchase. Mm-hmm. And in jobs, a lot of times when you're negotiating for things, the best deal you're probably ever going to get is the deal you came in there with until you really get in there and show and prove. So to me, this guy's at the height of his success in that realm. But I've got 2 sons that now I can take and be up there with the top 5 schools as a competitor, as an underdog. See, think about it. It's not easy to get in the Alabama program, but they always get all the good picks, right? Yeah. If I went straight to Alabama and the funny thing is, I don't even follow sports that close, but I know enough to know college sports, but I know enough to know if Alabama's kind of like one of your dominant forces in Ohio and Tennessee, all these big schools, it's almost better for us to go to a school like Colorado, who has a great program, a well-funded program, but needs some help. Then you're seeing a guy do this twice. And it would be a no-brainer for these kids not to go on. I mean, can you imagine if they weren't in the top picks in the NFL, especially after this run? So I think as a dad, you're bringing up a good point, because I think he's doing a lot, not only for his family, but specifically where you would put your children in their time.
And nobody's talking about
Nobody's talking about that. Yeah. I think we're so caught up on the money. We're so caught up on the perceived, disrespect, or people said, he basically they're acting like he led them on, like he didn't do what he was supposed to do. I'm like, no, he produced results.
He did.
But the father component, I think, is the biggest part, and I feel like what you're seeing is a lot of people who maybe are so caught up in themselves. And what's funny about the comments are, these are people who, most of the time when I'm looking at the comments, these are people who I wonder, do you even follow football? Did you go to one of these schools? For you to be so angry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you watch NFL football? Do you do anything in your community?
Are you a father involved with your child?
Are you involved? Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think it's, I saw a clip once, and I think Jordan Peterson, this young lady, was complaining about climate change, and it was a Jordan Peterson interview. He was on a panel, and he happened to say, it's easier for people to attach themselves to these lofty kind of problems that they can't fix than it is for them to clean their own house.
That's right.
And I think that's what we're seeing a lot of, because I think this is going to be long term a great success story again for Deion in the second phase of his life, where you're really going to see some successes of a dad for his children and his family. And one thing is, and no knock, I used to spend a lot of time, and I grew up in Georgia, but I used to spend time in Alabama and Mississippi. But if I'm there for a few years and I have an opportunity after some time to go somewhere else, and it could be a quality of life scenario, you know what I mean? You're still making family decisions. If you worked at any corporate company, you could live anywhere for the job at first. And then after some time, you might have family members saying, hey, I just don't like it here anymore, or I want to be closer here. I want to be closer to California. Maybe I have family, whatever the case may be. So I think there's a lot that isn't being considered.
Nobody's even talking.
But I just feel like regardless, even if none of that was the case, who are we to be on Deion?
Yeah.
Deion is, you know what I mean? Like,
I know.
I'm not saying the guy can do no wrong, but you know, Deion has pretty much done what he's supposed to do. He's fulfilled the task.
And what other coaches have left and moved and nobody said nothing about him? You know, fired, hired.
You didn't even hear about it.
Yeah.
Look, I didn't even know. You know what I'm saying? That's the funny thing is like, I don't follow college sport. I follow it now.
Yeah.
But I follow Deion.
That's what I follow. Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what
like
I
follow Deion Sanders. I don't follow, I didn't go to college. My mother went to Howard, but they don't have a football team. So I don't even follow. Like I don't even have any attachment, you know, to any. But over the years, I followed a few teams, and specifically the Jackson scenario. I've been following for the last 3 years, and unfortunately, me, much like many of the players going into the portal, we're following Deion.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, man.
Hey, there you have it. Big Herc 916, Chico, getting down on Fresh Out. Stop walking around with a crusty butt, smelly ball sack, and a funky hoo-ha. Big Herc said, wash that ass. Pick you up a t-shirt at freshoutseries.com.